Hey gang, as many of you know, I was a travel writer living in Vietnam for about 7 years. And so one of the things I'd like to do is share some of my adventures living overseas. So this segment is going to be my top 5 experiences with rats, bats, and mice in Vietnam. But number 5 is really the first experience I remember with rats. If you live in a city that's not very well managed, like Los Angeles or New York or San Francisco, you may be able to relate to this. But when I was in Phan Thiet, I was waiting in a friend's house, a Vietnamese friend, and typical Vietnamese houses, they have kind of the common area at the front of the house, and there's they'll have tables and chairs, and these cabinets for like the family photos and offerings and things, and they have these furniture. I really love them. They're kind of a cross between a bed and a table. You can sit on them or sleep on them, or you lay the meals out on them. I forget what they're called, but so anyway, I was sitting in that front room off the street, and it was in the city, and well, I'm just sitting there waiting for my friend to get done with their work and come back, and I'm just sitting there quietly all by myself, and I see this it looks like a dog waddling in the house. And I'm like, oh, they have a new dog. I've never seen that one before. And as it comes closer, waddling along the wall through the door, I realized that's not a dog at all. It's actually a giant fat rat. And it was so fat, its tummy was just dragging across the floor. And it was the most heinous thing I'd ever seen. Clearly it like had mange. It was missing, patches of hair, and it just looked diseased and old and just as gross as could be. And I just sat in disbelief as this, great big rat just waddled in the house and looked like it knew exactly where it was going, like it lived there, and, went through the room, full length of the room, and back into the house. So I was really horrified that my friends were living in a situation like that with rats just running in and out. But that's the way it is in cities in developing countries, or L.A. or New York. So that was experience. I'd say that was number 5. Number 4. Also in Phan Thiet, which was the major city where I lived in Binh Thuong province. When I first got there, they had cafes along the beach, the municipal beach there. And, it'd be really popular in the evenings to sit there along the beach and drink café suada. And that first summer, it was really cool because they had bioluminescent algae, and when the waves would crash on the water, they would light up green, and glow in the dark. And it's the first time I'd ever seen that. So I thought that would be normal, but it ended up that was just a special algal bloom. That was the only year I ever saw it. But while I was watching that, I started, my legs were under the table. I started feeling these things climbing across my feet, because like everybody else, I was just wearing sandals. And as I was drinking, just these like little feet going over my feet. And I look down, and it's just rats just walking all over me, all over everything, underneath all the tables, because Vietnamese people would bring their snacks or eat their watermelon seeds or whatever, and just drop bits on the ground, and the rats just come and clean it up. So I had rats crawling all over my feet. So I learned not to sit out there and not to wear sandals anymore in cafes. So that's number 4. Number 3, with mice. One year I actually owned a Vietnamese farmhouse. It was very unusual for a foreigner to have a house to themselves like that in the countryside, and it was a fully legit farmhouse. Um, and I slept on the floor. There were no beds in the house. I just had like a straw woven mat, and a couple blankets and a pillow and mosquito net and my fan, and just slept there right on the floor at night. And I started feeling at night, I'd wake up and feel something tugging at my hair, just pulling on my hair, and I'm like, what's that? You know, and I'd brush it away. And then sometimes I would feel something waking me up, running across my belly at night. I was much fatter then, so it was a bit of a hill. This little pitter patter. And it wasn't until one day when I was cleaning the house, I discovered a mouse was in this. I had like a little rug that was all kind of balled up, and inside was this little nest. And I opened it up. Oh, there's a little mouse, and it ran out. And so I realized, okay, that was what was tugging on me. Yeah, I thought, well, it's just cute. It hasn't hurt anything. It's just one. I'll let it be and not worry about it. But then I'd start finding it all over the place as I was cleaning. You know, one day I went in my underwear drawer and found a nest in there, and scared it out. And another day, there was I had a shirt on the floor, and the mouse had made a nest there. It had pulled the rooster feathers out of the feather duster that I had and made a little nest in that. And then one day, I found two mice, and so I realized, oh, he's got a girlfriend now, and if I've got two, I'm going to have babies. So yeah, I was a little worried then. So I shooed them both out and kind of got them as far out of the house as I could. So that was the mice. Then bats, number 4. As I was cleaning the house one day, I started noticing all these droppings in the corner of the kitchen, and I couldn't figure out where they were coming from because, you know, the kitchen, that corner of the house, it was pretty empty. And I had a typical Vietnamese farmhouse kitchen, which meant that it was an empty room. There was nothing in it. There were no stoves. There were no sinks. There was no plumbing, because you're supposed to do all your cooking outside on a little portable coal stove. So the kitchen's just kind of a work area with benches, you know, to like cut your food and stuff. So my kitchen was pretty empty. I ate out. But so I wondered where all these droppings coming from. So I looked up in the ceiling, and I'm like, there's a whole colony of bats quietly in the corner. And there was a bunch of mama bats with slimy, wet, mucousy faces, and a whole bunch of baby bats all around them. I let them be. I didn't really know what to do with them, but sometimes, you know, I'd go to the market and I'd come home and I'd find bats on the floor, and they'd kind of make their way across the floor and fly back up. And I started finding baby bats in my shoes sometimes. Baby bats all over the place in things. So it got to be a bit of a problem. I wasn't sure what to do about it. But then one day I found a snake in the house. It wasn't the only snake I'd ever found. But I think it was called an emerald tree snake or an emerald paradise snake. Really beautiful snake. But I looked it up, and it was a flying snake, one of the gliding ones that lives up in jungles. And they jump from tree to tree. You've seen them in wildlife nature programs, I'm sure. And they just glide through the air. Well, I wondered, well, what's a jungle snake doing in my house, because I don't live in the jungle? Well, it turned out they eat bats. So that's why it was in my house, was to clear out the bat problem. So such are the joys of living in Vietnamese farmhouses. But number 5, my number 5 experience was back with rats again. Thing about Vietnamese is they eat rats. And my friends would always tell me, oh, we don't eat the dirty rats. We eat the clean rats. We eat the rats from the rice fields. Those are clean. We don't eat the sewer rats. And the thing about Vietnam is everything's so close together. You know, the difference between the clean rats that live in the rice field and the dirty rats that live in the gutters in the city is just which side of the street you're on. It's really all the same. But they eat wild rats. There's also people that farm the rats, though they probably just catch the other rats and put them in a cage and breed them, starting with the wild ones. Then there's different kinds. There's the regular rats, pet store type rats, and there's also big bamboo rats, which are really cute, but I think those are protected. You're not supposed to eat them, but they do eat them in restaurants and things. But bamboo rats are adorable. But anyway, I went to a friend's house, some Cham people in Phan Rang. And we were eating this really delicious dinner. It was some minced meat and the rice crackers with the little black sesame seeds and chili, and it was all just kind of stir-fried and really nice, kind of a meal/snack. And my friend pointed at the dish and he said, "Did you know you're eating rat?" And I was like, "Rat? What do you mean?" And he said, "Yeah, look, in the dish, the little skulls are along the edge of the dish." And I looked, and sure enough, little rat skulls. And he said, "But don't worry, you've eaten rat lots of times. You've eaten rat many times. We just didn't tell you." So it was kind of funny. It was quite a surprise. And sure enough, I guess I had. But I had to admit it tasted really good. So, I told the lady of the house, and she thanked me. But because I said that I liked it, that meant that every time I came to visit, which was often, she made a point of feeding me rat. So I got to see how it was made next time. They bought it in the market, and they'd skin it and chop it up, and there you go. But it tasted good. But the second time that I ate rat was up in the mountains in the Central Highlands in Kon Tum. And I had some friends in the Banar ethnic minority, and I went to their house and I saw that they were drinking this stuff. It's a Ru Kung, or Ru Kung, which is rice wine. Ru is wine, the rice wine. Kung, I believe, is these bamboo straws. But so they put the rice and the husks in here, and they ferment it, and then you drink it out of the straws. It's kind of a group activity, social drinking, but I love it. It's the best stuff in the world. It's super sweet, and the best kind is Ru Nep Dang, which is the black rice wine. I love black rice anyway. But I saw my friends were drinking this, and I was like, okay, well, I got to stop here, and I got to drink some of this Ru Kung with you. But it was a bunch of guys, and Vietnamese guys, the ethnic minorities included, have a tendency when they're drinking to eat really weird stuff. And they were grilling rat. And I didn't want to be rude, but I didn't really want it. But I saw they just had a grill beside them, and they just kind of had the rat chopped in quarters and just laying there. And they gave me a piece, and it wasn't prepared very well. It was kind of pink, and didn't look like it was cooked well. It still had a little bit of hair on it, and it kind of smelled icky and tasted icky. I was worried they hadn't like scraped all the poop out in the guts. And I nibbled a little bit, and it was just gross. It was clearly not cooked well. So I quietly stuffed it in my pocket while they were busy drinking. And when I was done, when I left, I just kind of threw it in the bushes. I ate a lot of meals at friends' houses that I had to stuff in my pockets and toss in the bushes when they weren't looking. I'll have some stories about that another time. But there are my top 5 experiences with rats, bats, and mice in Vietnam.